Your check engine light just came on, and your brain immediately did that thing where it cycles through 5 stages of grief in about 3 seconds. Denial, maybe it'll go away. Anger, I just paid rent. Bargaining, if I ignore it, maybe it's nothing. Depression, this is going to cost $2,000. Acceptance, I'll take it to the shop tomorrow. You take it to the shop. The mechanic plugs in a little device, looks at a screen, and tells you what's wrong. That interaction takes 4 minutes. The bill says, diagnostic fee, $150. $150 for 4 minutes of work, with a tool that costs less than dinner for 2. And information that was sitting inside your car's computer, free, available, waiting for anyone to read it, including you. Here's the truth. Your car has been trying to tell you what's wrong the entire time. It has a built-in diagnostic computer that monitors every major system, detects problems, logs error codes, and stores that information for anyone with a $20 scanner to read. The check engine light is not a mystery alarm. It's a notification. It's your car saying, hey, I know exactly what's wrong. Want me to tell you? And most people say no because nobody taught them how to listen. That changes today. By the end of this, you'll know what OBD2 is, how it works, how to read codes yourself, what the most common codes mean, when to worry, when to chill, and how to stop paying someone $150 to do something you can do in your driveway with your phone. Let's go. OBD stands for Onboard Diagnostics. The 2 means it's the second generation of the system. OBD1 was the first version, used from the 1980s through the mid-1990s, and it was a mess. Every manufacturer had their own proprietary system with their own connectors, their own codes, and their own procedures. Diagnosing a Ford was completely different from diagnosing a Honda, which was completely different from diagnosing a Chevy. Mechanics needed brand-specific tools. Independent shops were at a disadvantage, and emissions testing was a nightmare. In 1996, the federal government mandated that every car sold in the United States must use a standardized diagnostic system. Same connector, same communication protocol, same basic code structure. That system is OBD2, and it applies to every gas-powered passenger vehicle sold in the U.S. from 1996 onward. If your car was made after 1996, it has an OBD2 port, and it speaks OBD2 no exceptions. The OBD2 system does several things. It continuously monitors engine performance, emission systems, fuel delivery, ignition timing, exhaust composition, and dozens of other parameters through a network of sensors. When something goes outside its expected range, the system logs a diagnostic trouble code, a DTC, and illuminates the check engine light on your dashboard. The code is stored in the car's computer memory until someone reads it and clears it. The system was originally designed for emissions compliance. The government wanted a way to ensure that cars were running clean and that the emissions equipment was functioning properly, but it's evolved into a comprehensive diagnostic tool that covers far more than just emissions. Modern OBD2 systems monitor hundreds of parameters and can generate thousands of different codes covering everything from engine misfires to transmission problems to evaporative emissions, leaks to catalytic converter efficiency. The OBD2 port, the physical connector, is a standardized 16-pin trapezoid-shaped plug. By law, it must be located within 3 feet of the driver, typically under the dashboard on the driver's side. Sometimes it's right below the steering column, sometimes it's tucked behind a panel or near the center console, but it's always in the driver's area. If you can't find it, Google your specific car model plus OBD2 port location. Someone has posted a picture, they always have. To read the codes your car is storing, you need a scanner, and this is where most people assume they need expensive professional equipment. You don't. A basic OBD2 code reader costs $15 to $30. It plugs into the OBD2 port, communicates with the car's computer, and displays the stored diagnostic trouble codes on a small screen. That's it. That's the whole job. You plug it in, turn the key to the on position, or press the start button without pressing the brake on push-button cars, and the scanner reads the codes. The entire process takes about 60 seconds. If you want something slightly more capable, Bluetooth OBD2 adapters cost $10 to $25 and pair with your smartphone. You plug the adapter into the OBD2 port, connect it to a free or cheap app on your phone. Popular options include Torque, OBD Fusion, Car Scanner, and others. And now your phone is the display. These apps can read codes, clear codes, display real-time sensor data, and some can even log data over time. Your phone becomes a diagnostic tool that rivals what many shops use for basic diagnostics. For the vast majority of check engine light situations, a basic code reader or a Bluetooth adapter with a phone app is all you need. Professional-grade scan tools, the ones that cost $500 to $5,000 and up, offer additional capabilities like reading manufacturer-specific codes, accessing advanced modules like ABS and airbag systems, performing bidirectional tests, and programming certain vehicle functions. These tools are valuable for professional technicians, but for a car owner who wants to understand why their check engine light is on, a $20 device does the job. Think of it like checking your email. You don't need a $3,000 computer to read your inbox. A $200 phone does it just fine. The information is the same. The codes are the same. The expensive tool just offers more features you probably don't need for everyday use. Every OBD2 diagnostic trouble code follows the same format. Once you understand the format, you can decode any code without looking it up. Here's how they work. A standard OBD2 code has 5 characters. Let's use P001 as an example. First character, the system letter. P equals powertrain, engine and transmission. B equals body, interior systems, airbags, climate control. C equals chassis, ABS, traction control, suspension. U equals network communication, data bus issues between modules. P codes are by far the most common because the OBD2 system was originally designed to monitor the powertrain and emissions systems. B, C, and U codes typically require a more advanced scan tool to read, as basic OBD2 readers often only pull P codes. Second character, generic versus manufacturer-specific. 0 equals generic. SAE standard, same across all manufacturers. 1 equals manufacturer-specific, defined by the individual automaker. A P0 code means the same thing on a Ford, a Toyota, a BMW, and a Kia. A P1 code might mean something different depending on the brand. For basic diagnosis, you'll mostly deal with generic P0 codes. Third character, the subsystem. This digit tells you which subsystem the code relates to. 1 equals fuel and air, metering. 2 equals fuel and air metering, injector circuit specific. 3 equals ignition system or misfires. 4 equals auxiliary emissions controls. 5 equals vehicle speed control, and idle. 6 equals computer output. Circuits 7 and 8 equals transmission related. These 2 digits identify the specific problem within the subsystem. They range from 00 to 99, so PL301 breaks down as P, powertrain, 0, generic, 3, ignition/me, 01, cylinder 1. It means misfire detected in cylinder 1. PL302 would be cylinder 2. P03 is cylinder 3. P030 with a 0 at the end means random/multiple cylinder misfire detected, meaning the engine is misfiring but not consistently in one cylinder. Once you understand the structure, you can look at a code like P0420 and immediately know it's a powertrain code. P, generic, 0, related to auxiliary emissions, 4, and the specific fault is 20. Without even looking it up, you know it's an emissions system issue. The specific meaning of P0420 is catalyst system efficiency below threshold, which almost always means your catalytic converter is aging out or failing. The code structure is a language. Once you learn the alphabet, you can read anything. Your car can generate thousands of possible codes, but in reality, a relatively small number of codes account for the vast majority of check engine lights. Here are the most common ones and what they actually mean. P0300, random/multiple cylinder misfire. The engine is misfiring across multiple cylinders. Causes include bad spark plugs, failing ignition coils, vacuum leaks, fuel delivery issues, or low compression. This one needs attention because misfires can damage your catalytic converter. The O31 through P0312 cylinder-specific misfire. Same as above but isolated to one cylinder. The last two digits tell you which one. This narrows the diagnosis significantly. If only cylinder 3 is misfiring, you check the spark plug, ignition coil, and fuel injector on cylinder 3 first. P0171, System 2 lean. Bank 1. The engine is running with too much air and not enough fuel on bank 1, the side of the engine with cylinder 1. Common causes: vacuum leak, failing mass airflow sensor, weak fuel pump, clogged fuel injectors, or an exhaust leak before the oxygen sensor. P0174, System 2 lean, Bank 2, same as P0171 but on the other side of the engine. If both P0171 and P0174 set at the same time, the problem is likely something that affects the whole engine, like the mass airflow sensor or fuel pump, rather than a bank-specific issue. P0172, System 2 rich, Bank 1. Too much fuel, not enough air. Causes include a leaking fuel injector, a stuck-open fuel pressure regulator, a faulty oxygen sensor reading lean when it shouldn't be, or a dirty air filter restricting airflow. P0420A, catalyst system efficiency below threshold, Bank 1. This is the catalytic converter code. It means the downstream oxygen sensor is seeing readings too similar to the upstream sensor, indicating the cat isn't converting pollutants efficiently. In many cases, this means the catalytic converter is failing. It can also be caused by an exhaust leak, a failing oxygen sensor, or engine issues that are overworking the converter. P0430, catalyst system efficiency below threshold, Bank 2. Same story, other side. On a V6 or V8 with dual converters, you might see one or both. P0440, evaporative emission system malfunction. Your car has an evap system that captures fuel vapors from the gas tank and routes them into the engine to be burned instead of escaping into the atmosphere. P0440 means there's a general malfunction in this system. Common causes: loose gas cap, cracked evap hose, or a failing purge valve. P0442, evaporative emission system, leak detected. Small leak, a small leak in the evap system. The most common cause: a loose or worn gas cap. Before you drive to a mechanic, tighten your gas cap until it clicks, clear the code, and see if it comes back. If the light stays off, you just saved yourself a trip. If it comes back, you've got a small leak somewhere in the system that needs actual diagnosis. P0455, evaporative emission system, leak detected, large leak. A bigger evap leak. Could be a gas cap that's not sealing at all, a disconnected hose, or a cracked component in the evap system, usually not dangerous, but will fail an emissions test. B0128, coolant thermostat, below regulating temperature. The engine isn't reaching operating temperature fast enough, almost always caused by a stuck-open thermostat. The thermostat is supposed to stay closed while the engine warms up, trapping coolant in the engine block. If it's stuck open, coolant circulates immediately. The engine takes forever to warm up, and the heater barely works in winter. Thermostats are usually inexpensive to replace. Fuel 401, exhaust gas recirculation, EGR, flow insufficient. The EGR system recirculates a small amount of exhaust gas back into the intake to reduce combustion temperatures and lower nitrogen oxide emissions. P04001 means the flow is lower than expected, usually caused by carbon buildup clogging the EGR valve or passages. PE0411, secondary air injection system, incorrect flow. Some cars have a secondary air pump that injects fresh air into the exhaust during cold starts to help the catalytic converter heat up faster. P0411 means the system isn't flowing correctly. Failed pump, stuck check valve, or disconnected hose. P055, idle air control system malfunction. The idle control system isn't maintaining proper idle speed. Causes include a dirty or failing idle air control valve, a vacuum leak, or a throttle body that needs cleaning. P01313SEX0137, oxygen sensor low voltage. The upstream PU01 or downstream PU0137 oxygen sensor on bank 1 is reading low voltage, indicating a lean condition or a failing sensor. Oxygen sensors degrade over time and eventually need replacement. They're a wear item, not a lifetime component. P0133, oxygen sensor slow response. The upstream O2 sensor is switching between rich and lean readings too slowly. This usually means the sensor is aging and losing its responsiveness. A new O2 sensor typically fixes it. 4700 transmission control system malfunction. This is a general flag that says the transmission control module has stored a code of its own. It doesn't tell you what the transmission problem is, just that there is one. You'll need a scanner that can read transmission-specific codes to get the actual fault. P013/P7014, camshaft position actuator. These relate to the variable valve timing system. Prusion 13 indicates a fault in the exhaust camshaft actuator circuit, and Prusion 14 means the exhaust camshaft timing is over-advanced. Common causes include low or dirty oil. The variable valve timing system relies on oil pressure to function or a failing actuator solenoid. Frequently, an oil change with fresh, correct weight oil fixes the problem. When your car sets a diagnostic trouble code, it also captures a snapshot of engine conditions at the exact moment the fault occurred. This is called freeze frame data, and most scan tools and apps can display it. Freeze frame typically includes engine RPM, vehicle speed, engine coolant temperature, fuel system status, calculated load value, short-term and long-term fuel trims, and other relevant parameters. It's a frozen moment in time, a crime scene photo of what the engine was doing when the problem happened. This data is incredibly useful for diagnosis. If a misfire code was set at 6500 RPM and high load, the problem might be different than if it was set at idle. If a lean code was set when the engine was cold, it points toward a cold start specific issue like a sticking injector or a cold weather vacuum leak. If a code was set at a specific vehicle speed, it might indicate a speed-dependent issue. Most people ignore freeze frame data because they don't know it exists. But if you're trying to diagnose a problem yourself, or if you want to give a mechanic useful information before you bring the car in, freeze frame data is gold. It turns a vague code into a specific scenario that narrows the possible causes. Not all codes are created equal. Your OBD2 system differentiates between pending codes and confirmed codes, and understanding the difference can save you a lot of unnecessary stress. A pending code is a fault that the system has detected once but hasn't confirmed. The OBD2 system is designed to avoid false alarms. Many faults need to be detected across multiple drive cycles, separate instances of starting and driving the car before the system considers the problem confirmed and turns on the check engine light. If you scan your car and find a pending code but no check engine light, it means the system saw something suspicious but isn't sure yet. It might resolve on its own. It might confirm on the next drive cycle. Pending codes are worth monitoring but not worth panicking over. A confirmed code is one that has met the system's criteria across multiple drive cycles. The check engine light is on. The system is confident the problem is real. This is the one you need to address. When you clear codes with a scanner, you're resetting both pending and confirmed codes. The check engine light goes off. But if the underlying problem still exists, the system will detect the fault again, set a new pending code, and eventually reconfirm it. Clearing codes doesn't fix anything. It just resets the detection process. If the light comes back after clearing, the problem is still there. Not all check engine lights are emergencies. Some are urgent. Some are annoying but not dangerous. Some are literally a loose gas cap. Knowing the difference keeps you from either panicking unnecessarily or ignoring something serious. Steady check engine light. This indicates a confirmed fault that needs attention but is not immediately dangerous. The car is safe to drive in most cases. You should scan the code, understand what it means, and address it within a reasonable time frame, days to weeks, depending on the severity. A P0442 small evap leak, tighten the gas cap and monitor. A P031 misfire, get it looked at soon because misfires can damage the catalytic converter over time. Flashing check engine light, this is urgent. A flashing check engine light almost always indicates an active, severe misfire that is dumping unburned fuel into the catalytic converter. Unburned fuel in the cat causes extreme overheating that can destroy the converter and potentially cause a fire. If your check engine light is flashing, reduce speed immediately, avoid heavy acceleration, and get the car to a shop as soon as possible. Don't ignore a flashing check engine light. Don't drive across town with it blinking. Don't see if it stops. Handle it. Code with no drivability symptoms. Sometimes a code sets but the car feels completely normal. No rough idle, no power loss, no strange noises. In these cases, the problem is often emissions-related rather than performance-related. EBAP codes, catalyst efficiency codes, and oxygen sensor codes frequently fall into this category. The car runs fine but isn't meeting emissions standards. Important to fix, especially if you're in a state with emissions testing but not a roadside emergency. Cold with drivability symptoms. If the check engine light is accompanied by rough running, poor acceleration, stalling, strange sounds, overheating, or unusual smells, the code and the symptoms are connected, and you should prioritize getting it diagnosed and repaired. The code tells you the system affected. The symptoms tell you the severity. Together, they give you a clear picture. Once you've addressed the problem, replace the spark plug, tighten the gas cap, clean the throttle body, whatever the fix was, you can clear the codes with your scanner. This turns off the check engine light and resets the monitoring system. But here's something most people don't know. Clearing codes also resets your car's readiness monitors. These are internal self-tests that the OBD2 system runs on various subsystems. Catalytic converter, a VAP system, oxygen sensors, EGR, and others. When you clear codes, these monitors go to not ready status. They need to complete their test cycles before they go back to ready. Why does this matter? Emissions testing. In states with emissions inspections, your car must have all or most readiness monitors in ready status to pass. If you clear codes right before an emissions test, the monitors won't be ready and the car will fail. Not because something is wrong, but because the system hasn't had time to rerun its tests. After clearing codes, drive the car normally for a few days to a week. The monitors will complete their cycles. If the check engine light stays off and all monitors return to ready, you're good. If the light comes back, the problem wasn't actually fixed. OBD2 is powerful, but it's not omniscient. Understanding its limitations is just as important as understanding its capabilities. OBD2 monitors the powertrain and emissions systems. It does not monitor your brakes in the traditional sense. Brake pad thickness, rotor condition, and brake fluid level are not OBD2 parameters. It doesn't monitor tire pressure directly through OBD2. Your car's TPMS is a separate system. It doesn't tell you if your suspension is worn, if your steering rack is leaking, or if your wheel bearings are failing. OBD2 also tells you what system has a problem, not necessarily what part has failed. A P0171 lean code tells you the engine is running lean on bank 1. It doesn't tell you whether the cause is a vacuum leak, a bad mass airflow sensor, a weak fuel pump, or a clogged injector. The code is a starting point for diagnosis, not the final answer. It narrows the investigation from something is wrong with my car to something is causing a lean condition on bank 1. That's valuable, but you still need to test and inspect to find the specific failed component. This is where a lot of people get burned. They read the code, Google it, and the first forum post says, replace the oxygen sensor. So they replace the oxygen sensor. The light comes back. Turns out the actual cause was a vacuum leak that was causing the O2 sensor to read incorrectly. The sensor was reporting accurately. It was the information being reported that was abnormal, not the sensor itself. They replaced a $150 part that was working fine, and the problem was a $5 vacuum hose. The code tells you the symptom. Finding the cause requires additional testing. A code for a bad O2 sensor reading might be caused by the sensor or by a dozen other things affecting what the sensor sees. A code for a misfire might be the spark plug, the coil, the injector, a compression issue, or a wiring fault. The code gets you in the right neighborhood. Diagnosis gets you to the right house. Beyond just reading stored codes, most OBD2 apps and scanners can display live data, the real-time sensor reading streaming from your car's computer as the engine runs. This is where things get genuinely powerful for anyone who wants to go deeper than just code reading. Live data lets you watch your engine's vital signs like a doctor watching a heart monitor. Common parameters include engine RPM, coolant temperature, intake air temperature, mass airflow sensor readings, throttle position, short-term and long-term fuel trims, oxygen sensor voltages, engine load percentage, timing advance, and dozens more. Fuel trims are particularly useful for diagnosis. Short-term fuel trim, STFT, and long-term fuel trim, LTFT, show you how much the engine's computer is adjusting the fuel mixture to compensate for real-world conditions. If the long-term fuel trim on bank 1 is showing plus 15%, it means the computer is adding 15% more fuel than its baseline calculation because the engine is running lean. That lean condition is what triggers a P0171 code. But seeing the fuel trim number in real time and watching how it changes at idle versus underload, or when you spray carburetor cleaner around intake gaskets to check for vacuum leaks, gives you diagnostic information that a stored code alone can't provide. Oxygen sensor waveforms are another gold mine. A healthy upstream O2 sensor rapidly switches between rich and lean readings, oscillating between roughly 0.1 and 0.9 volts multiple times per second. If the sensor is sluggish, switching slowly, or stuck at 1 voltage, you can see it in the live data before a code even sets. You're catching problems early, before the check engine light comes on, before the catalytic converter takes damage from running rich or lean for too long. Coolant temperature data can reveal a stuck thermostat before it triggers a P0128. If the engine takes 15 minutes to reach operating temperature on a mild day, the thermostat is probably stuck open, and you can see it in the temperature graph climbing at a suspiciously slow rate. Live data turns your scanner from a code reader into a real diagnostic tool. It's the difference between a thermometer that only tells you have a fever and a medical monitor that shows your heart rate, blood pressure, and oxygen saturation in real time. The code says something is wrong. Live data shows you what's actually happening inside the system while it's happening. Let's walk through an actual scenario to show how this works in practice. Because theory is nice, but application is what saves you money. You start your car on a Monday morning. The check engine light comes on. Steady, not flashing. The car seems to run fine. No rough idle, no loss of power, no weird noises. You grab your $20 scanner from the glove box, plug it in, and read the code. P0442 evaporative emission system leak detected, small leak. Step 1. Don't panic. You know from the code structure that this is a powertrain code, P, generic, 0, related to auxiliary emissions, 4, and specifically a small evap leak, 42. The evap system captures fuel vapors. A small leak means a tiny amount of vapor is escaping somewhere it shouldn't be. Step 2. Check the most common cause. Pop the gas cap, remove it, inspect the rubber seal for cracks or debris, and reinstall it, turning it until it clicks firmly. A loose or worn gas cap is responsible for a substantial percentage of evap codes. It's the "is it plugged in" of car diagnostics. Step 3. Clear the code with your scanner. The check engine light goes off. Drive normally for a few days. If the light stays off, the gas cap was the problem. You just diagnosed and fixed a car problem in 3 minutes and $0. Step 4. If the light comes back with the same P4442, the issue was something else in the evap system, possibly a cracked hose, a failing purge valve, or a leak in the charcoal canister. At this point, you've confirmed it's not the gas cap, and you have a specific system to investigate. If you're comfortable doing further diagnosis, checking hoses for cracks, testing the purge valve, go for it. If not, you take the car to a shop and tell them, "I'm getting a recurring P042 after confirming the gas cap seals properly." You just saved yourself the diagnostic fee and gave the mechanic a head start. That walkthrough, read the code, check the simplest cause, clear and monitor, escalate if needed, is the framework for dealing with almost any check engine light. It works for evap codes, O2 sensor codes, misfire codes, and most other common faults. The specific steps change, but the process is the same. Read, research, check the easy stuff, clear, monitor, escalate if necessary. With a $20 scanner and a phone, you can read codes, understand what system is affected, and make an informed decision about next steps. That alone puts you ahead of 90% of car owners. But where's the line between "I can handle this" and "I should take this to a professional"? Handle it yourself if the code is AVAP-related and you haven't checked your gas cap. The code is a simple misfire and you're comfortable changing a spark plug or coil. The code is something you've researched thoroughly, the fix is straightforward, and you have basic tools. The check engine light is steady and the car runs normally. Take it to a shop if the check engine light is flashing. You've cleared the code and it keeps coming back and you can't identify the cause. The code involves the transmission, ABS, or airbag systems. The car has drivability symptoms you can't explain. The repair requires specialized tools, computer programming, or access to systems beyond basic OBD2. The scanner doesn't replace a mechanic. It replaces the $150 diagnostic fee for simple problems. It gives you knowledge, context, and the ability to have an informed conversation with a mechanic when you do need professional help. Walking into a shop and saying, "I'm getting a P0171 lean code on bank 1, and I've already checked the gas cap and air filter," commands a very different level of respect than saying, "The light's on." OBD2 is a standardized diagnostic system on every car since 1996. A $20 scanner reads the codes your car's computer stores when it detects a problem. Codes follow a 5-character format: system letter, generic versus PULT, manufacturer-specific, subsystem, and specific fault. The most common codes cover misfires, lean and rich conditions, catalytic converter efficiency, evap leaks, and oxygen sensor faults. A steady check engine light means address it soon. A flashing light means address it now. Freeze frame data shows engine conditions at the moment the fault occurred. Pending codes are unconfirmed, monitored but not yet alarming. Clearing codes resets readiness monitors, which matters for emissions testing. OBD2 tells you the system with a problem, not the specific failed part. A code is a starting point for diagnosis, not the diagnosis itself. A $20 scanner eliminates the $150 diagnostic fee for simple problems and gives you the knowledge to make informed decisions about repairs. Your car is not a mystery box. It hasn't been since 1996. There's a standardized computer inside it that monitors everything, detects problems, logs the results, and waits patiently for someone to ask what's wrong. The only reason most people pay $150 for that information is because nobody told them they could get it themselves for the cost of a large pizza. Buy a scanner, a $20 Bluetooth adapter, and a free app on your phone. Keep it in your glove box. The next time your check engine light comes on, plug it in before you panic. Read the code. Look it up. Understand the system it's pointing to. You might find out it's a loose gas cap. You might find out it's something that needs a professional. Either way, you'll know what you're dealing with before someone else tells you and charges you for the privilege. Knowledge is the best diagnostic tool you'll ever own. It costs less than any scanner. It works on every car. And it's the difference between being the person who panics at a dashboard light and the person who plugs in, reads the code, nods, and says, "Yeah, I know what that is." If this video just saved you a diagnostic fee, hit like. Drop the code that's been haunting your dashboard in the comments. I want to see how many of you are driving around with a P042 right now, and subscribe so you stop Googling check engine light codes in a parking lot with no context and maximum anxiety. Later.